So friends, we are discussing about various factors that were indulged into the agricultural procedures and rising indebtedness of the farmers. किसानों के साथ बहुत सारी समस्याएं होती हैं ड्यू टू मानसून फेलियर्स, पुअर क्रॉप प्रोडक्टिविटी, लो हार्वेस्ट यील्ड that are leading to indebtedness. Now, indebtedness is rising and that is costing impoverishment, and that is again a rising indebtedness causing challenge for the household, increasing access to institutional finance due to governance efforts at ground level. Credit and to agriculture has nearly doubled from 7.30 lakh crores to 13.92 lakhs crore of rupees. In 1920, we are having inadequate growth in farm productivity and income of the transfer, which is due to rising cost of cultivation. Now the पैदावार की फसलों की पैदावार की कॉस्ट जो है बढ़ती जा रही है, जिसके चलते किसानों को ज़्यादा कॉस्ट देना पड़ता है, and that is again 95% tractors are taken on the fuel, then insecticide, fertilizers, seeds, pesticides, etc. Then climate change again, as I said, monsoon failure, sometime lack of concurrent rainfall again leads to low yield productivity. Then there is price volatility and agriculture market problems that led to rise in the farmers protest. We see that one year farmers protest was there on the Delhi Sindhu border. Further, subsistence farming of small land holdings makes the impossible for meat to needs inquire for their living. Next part is status of agriculture indebtedness in India. What is indebtedness in agriculture? Indebtedness in agriculture costs the percentage of household, that is 50% of total houses in villages are under the debt trap, and average account for outstanding loan per agriculture household is 74,121 rupees. 74,000 रुपये का लोन प्रति गांव में प्रति व्यक्ति के घर पे डाला जा चुका है, and 20.5% of loans are from agriculture and professional money lenders. 69.6% of outstanding loans are taken from institutions and other cooperative societies. 57% of loans from agriculture purposes. Use this data for your mains point of view and AC writing. Okay. Now, what are the government initiative to reduce indebtedness in the agriculture sector? So first is the PM Kisan Yojana, in which 6,000 rupees is provided to every farmer in 3 quarters. 2000 करके 3 बार में ये पैसे किसानों को दिए जाते हैं to higher income groups. Then Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana, in order to take the loss of post harvest risk and low premium contribution by farmers. Third is increase in minimum support price for all Kharif and Rabi crops, ensuring 50% of profit margin. And fourth is the creation of corpus fund, rupees 10,000 crore for the e-grams and 2,000 crore rupees of fund for the agri market federation and cooperation units, where marketers and the farmers are collided together to sell their products in the agriculture market. Agriculture infrastructure fund to build agri logistic and backward and forward linkages of rupees 1 lakh crores. Remember this fact for your prelims point of view and mains also. Now, what are the WTO measures that were again inhibited in subsidies? तो WTO में हम subsidies के ऊपर बहस कर रहे थे, and what are the parts of that subsidies? There are red box, there are green box, and there are orange box, and there is a white box. So these subsidies were discussed in again UPSC question. So WTO members had specific commitments to reduce support and protection of the areas in domestic support, export subsidies and market access. It takes into account of non-trade concerns for food security and need to protect the environment and provide special differential treatment for the developing countries. It also provides special agriculture safeguard for the developing countries and the import volume to be rise under the various grounds. Then there was Uruguay round of debate which created certain categories of domestic support. Remember this WTO. So green box is that in which subsidies are provided through limitations to the farmers such as fertilizers, खादों पे जो सब्सिडी आती है that is under green box, and there is a special treatment in the respective government to subsidize the agriculture produce, agriculture commodities, agriculture instrument as well as fertilizers, insecticide and pesticide that all come under the green box. So India's public distribution system, remember this is exception. So ऐसे question UPSC पूछती है. PDS is not included in the green box. Now second is the amber box. All domestic support measures considered to distort production and trade within the amber box. Instant MSP, procurement price, sum total of subsidies on inputs like fertilizers, water, credit, power, etc. So पानी की उपयोगिता जो फसलों में क्रेडिट जा रहे हैं, पैसे यूज हो रहे हैं, then power that is used by the electrical equipments, that are all comes under the amber box. Then basically amber box subsidies are what can limit the production, and any of the normally in the amber box is placed in the blue box, and that is exempted from the reduction commitments. Remember this fact, it is reducted. Now special and differential treatments box, this comprises of tractors and pump sets. जो भी खेती बाड़ी में ट्रैक्टर का यूज़ हो रहा है, जो पंप सेट यूज़ हो रहे हैं, they all are part of special treatment, that is SDT box, and given by the developing and low income countries. SDT box में इंडिया भी शामिल है, पाकिस्तान is also there, बांग्लादेश, नेपाल, Bhutan, all are part of SDT. Now what is 2013 Bali ministerial meeting of WTO? So a WTO meeting at Bali held that stockpiling at the public and goods that are under the agricultural mechanism to be provided for food security purposes. तो जो भी उपयोगिता है फूड सिक्योरिटी अनाजों के लिए that are to be achieved by the Bali ministerial round, and that provides the green box list for general services. Further, a declination to reduce all forms of export subsidies, enhance transparency, accountability and monitoring of all the data. Further, a temporary peace clause was added in the Bali round. 2015 Nairobi package as for eliminating agriculture export, and disciplines the export measures with equivalent effect. WTO measures agreed to engage the constructively finding the permanent solution to developing countries use of public stockholding programs for food security purposes. Ministries also agreed to continue negotiation on a special safeguard mechanism. Remember this fact, SSM mechanism, WTO. Next point comes under the post-COVID scenario, that what are the measures done by India to enhance ease of doing business method. So relief for the exporters by enhancing advance authorization for the products, N95 mask, 2/3 ply surgical mask, paracetamol medicine, hydroxychloroquine, alcohol based sanitizers, PPE kits were all the parts. Then enhancing ease of doing business by providing support to the various infrastructure, the measures and the criteria such as starting business, getting permit, registration, licensing properties, getting construction permit, then enhancing the buyers, shareholders, also registering the all the facts are there. Then they take the foreign trade facilitation through preferential certificate origin PCO, and there is adoption of technical resolution and quality control orders. Further, the fast track mechanism for trade remedy is also provided, which provide efficiency, expenditure relief, and promote transparency to the domestic industries. Further, there is a developing and districts and export hubs. So we see that recently our government announces export hub district, one district, one product, and the export hub district at a district level. What does it mean? It means that any district which having export tendency can be having a setup mechanism for government, product services, and district export action plan by DGFT among the others. So in the graph we see that how the important items, petroleum product, biological equipment, steel are being used, and that is again in a high number, and pearls, gems and jewelries, that is exclusive items are used 7%, gold is used in a ratio of 4%, 3% of the petroleum product and other equipments, and these are others. This is petroleum, diesel, oil based things. So 5 top commodities being India's exports. Now next point is 5 being export destination for India. So 62% is for others. Singapore is having 3%, Hong Kong 4%, China is larger share 9%, and UAE and USA having 17%. Now what is transport mandi tax at the WTO round? So it incurs all the taxes that are provided to all the mandis and all the divisions that are taking under economic process. There is WTO compliance under the incentive, including the tax refund rates 0.5% to 4.3%. Then there is a freight order based board value. So that trains that are carrying all the cargoes, all the logistics that are under FOB module, that is value of goods excluding shipping, insurance and freight. Then there is rebate, e-script and CBIC, that is Central Board of Indirect Taxes and Custom, that looks into the taxation measures of the all measures provided under this. Steel, pharmaceutical, chemicals has not been included. Remember this fact friends. What is excluded? क्या exclude कर दिया गया है यहाँ से? And what are the rebate on state and central levies, ROSCTL scheme that provides the rebate on the taxes on various items and commodities. Then services exports from India scheme SCI and provides 5% of net foreign exchange earned. Then description of advance authorization scheme, which provide the authorization and reduction of import duty to 0% and those of raw materials from the manufactured products to minimum of 0% level. Again, duty drawbacks scheme also curtail the DBK scheme. Exporters are given compensation on the customs, central excise taxes and current material used in the manufacturing. Next part goes for ease of doing business, how the business is being done and what are the measures taken for ease of doing business. So various exports and supportive ideas are being added between the business regulatory environment and economic outcomes. So when there are certain challenges in post-COVID scenario, we see that government is pushing funds, providing all the options for development of their business, and which helps for access trade, investment, finance and establishment of economic activity. Also it leads to revamp of enterprise, helping perceptions, investor sentiments. It reduces regulatory burden, regulatory impose both on cost and affect the competitiveness in the business. Low regulatory burden means entrepreneurs reward their time on the productive activity. Niti Aayog aims at state level ease of doing business ranking to promote the states in order to provide the entrepreneurs as well as investors to look into the states and develop their industries that are part of ease of doing business states ranking. Now life cycle of a company goes for opening of a business, starting a business, when there is a raw material collection and industry is established, then getting location. फिर कंपनी को क्या चाहिए, जगह ज़मीन चाहिए कि अपनी इंडस्ट्री को इस्टेब्लिश करे. इट डील्स विद द कंस्ट्रक्शन परमिट, फिर उसे कंस्ट्रक्शन परमिट चाहिए एंड गेटिंग इलेक्ट्रिसिटी. देन इट लीड्स रजिस्ट्रेशन ऑफ प्रॉपर्टी. Then after registration, what it needs, the company needs the loans, finances, because crores of rupees cannot be invested from one pocket. So finance चाहिए, getting credit from bank, and having protecting minority investor को रक्षा देना, security. Now in government agencies, what it provides is resumption from paying taxes. If any company is not able to pay the taxes on the time, the resumption in the taxes is provided. Then next is the trading across borders. The borders that are under threat and trading should be reduced. Then contracting with the government coming. Now next part is enforcement of the contracts. Whatever the contracts being made by the private company as well as the government players are being enforced. The next part is the resolving insolvency. If the company is not able to pay the loan and provide the funds which are provided to it, then there is a bankruptcy and insolvency, and insolvency bankruptcy code comes and it leads to resolving insolvency and taking out the fund back. There is the cycle, remember this chart. Now what are the challenges that come forth in the ease of doing business? So the challenges that goes is lagging on critical parameter, that is progress has been made. India still lags behind many larger nations in critical metrics and starting a business, forcing contracts, registering property. Then high tariff and protectionist measures. India is charging very high tariff in many investors. We see that there is a corporate tax of 30% and which is now reduced to 28%. And it is leveraging US investors, exporters with limited access of the market. Further, India average applied to tariffs in among highest bound tariffs at the Wto meeting. And the problem of unstable policy environment. The policy environment is quite unstable and that leads to crunch in the MNCs and other private players. And then we see that infrastructure challenges are there, such as many areas near villages and tribal areas, near roads, railways, airports, seaport, power grids and telecommunication infrastructure are present, and that challenges it is also growing in the economic status. Last is the safeguarding intellectual property. How intellectual property is safeguarded through various mechanisms, through generally compatible with EU and US intellectual property law. Then there is bureaucratic analysis and delays by the red tapeism. So when the file goes to a government offices, there are delays in the processing of those files, that again leads to bureaucratic trade, loopholes and bottlenecks. So that is why government is introducing single window system. Now what is the next part? That is some ease of doing business reform that comes under Make in India. Government is pushing towards Make in India. It is addressing the private players to come into India, do establish their industries in Indian market, having the place to relocate their business, do have a location, having raw materials, funding from government side and all the policies to help and regulate the private players that are part of Make in India and Made in India. Launch of web-based Spice Plus and Agile Pro framework that we discussed in economic survey. That Agile framework, what happens? It makes a loop at instant basis and create the reforms whenever it is needed. Spice Plus addressing the schematic meaning of the all private players, and it helps in 14 steps process in 2014. Establishment of modern insolvency regime through IBC Code 2016, which aims for the healing of all the insolvent and bankrupt companies that are under framework of the Government of India and private players that are not able to pay back their loans and debt. Last is the one-stop shop portal, which is a GST return portal and single window portal. So we see that we have GST clearance, eGST and single window. तो इससे क्या होगा, कोई भी companies अगर registration में any paperwork में they are facing any trap, then they can get into the single window system and clarify all the issues. The number of delays required in getting electricity connection from 105 days to 53 days. पहले 105 दिन लगते थे बिजली की आवश्यकता को पूर्ति करने के लिए. नाउ द डेज आर रिड्यूस टू 53 डेज. अब 53 दिन में बिजली की सप्लाई किसी भी प्राइवेट कंपनी को मिल जाती है. सो व्हाट इज इंटेंडेड बेनिफिट्स ऑफ द स्कीम? It adds the additional employment to the people at 7.5 lakh people directly. It adds employment of women. महिलाओं की सशक्तिकरण के लिए महिलाओं को रोजगार मिलता है in textile sector and various sectors. Further, it leads to employment of an investment of 19,000 crore rupees with a 3 lakh crore for 5-year period. And lastly, it helps Indian textile compliance to emerge at a global champion level, which are MMF segment, which complementary helps the effort of cotton and other natural fiber based textile industries. Remember this all fact for your prelims and mains answer writing. Very, very important. Now, what are the overviews that we see in the textile industry that contributes 2.4% of the Indian capital, total of the GDP, 7% of the industrial output, 12% of export mechanism, and adds the cotton and jute in the largest sector of 6th largest production in the world. So याद रखिए विश्व के 6ठे largest production of textile cotton is done by India. And 95% of hand woven fabrics come from the India. India's share of 5% in the global trade in textile and apparel, and second largest producer of MMF fibers. Remember that after China, India is having second largest production of MMF fibers, which also having a direct employment over 45 million of people and 21% of total employment of the country's youth potential. यानी कि इंडस्ट्रियलाइजेशन के बाद टेक्सटाइल सेक्टर इज द लार्जेस्ट एम्प्लॉयमेंट जनरेशन इन ओवरऑल सिनेरियो ऑफ द कंट्री एंड दैट हेल्प्स द सोर्स ऑफ लाइवलीहुड फॉर 100 मिलियन पीपल इनडायरेक्टली. 100 मिलियन से ज़्यादा यानी कि अराउंड 10 करोड़ ऑफ पॉपुलेशन इज गेटिंग एम्प्लॉयमेंट थ्रू द टेक्सटाइल सेक्टर. रिमेंबर दिस फैक्ट फॉर योर प्रिलिम्स एंड मेंस. नाउ दिस मैप ऑफ इंडिया शोज वेरियस प्लेसेस जहाँ पे टेक्सटाइल और कपड़ों की अपैरल की मैन्युफैक्चरिंग यूनिट है. फ्रेंड्स, वी सी इन श्रीनगर देयर इज टेक्सटाइल यूनिट, अनंतनाग, जम्मू, अमृतसर, लुधियाना, पानीपत we are having a textile cluster. Then in sectors of Ahmedabad, Rajkot, Jamnagar, we are again having a textile cluster in Surat, Vadodara in Gujarat. State of Madhya Pradesh, we see Indore as a textile cluster. In Uttar Pradesh, we are having Kanpur, Shahjahanpur, Allahabad, Mirzapur, Varanasi, Gorakhpur as textile cluster. In Bihar, we are having Gaya, Samastipur, and Purnia, Katihar. In Bengal, we having Murshidabad, Howrah, Kolkata, where the Britishers enters into Indian textile sector. Raigad in Chhattisgarh, Cuttack in Odisha, Nelli Marla, Chhindavalsa, Vishakhapatnam in Andhra Pradesh. In Nagpur, Jalgaon, Amlaner, Mumbai, Sholapur in Maharashtra, Gokak in Karnataka, Guntur, Elluru, Ongole in Andhra Pradesh, Mysuru, Karnataka, Bengaluru, Karnataka, Coimbatore, Chennai, Madurai in Tamil Nadu. So remember this fact that these are the clusters for development of textile apparels. So steps taken by government to develop the textile industry are as follow. So there are setting of 7 mega integrated textile sector under PM Mitra Yojana. प्रधानमंत्री मित्र योजना के अंतर्गत 7 मेगा क्लस्टर सेटअप हुए फ्रेंड्स. Then there is technology upgradation by amending technology front upgradation scheme ATUF, sector specific mission national handloom development program for access the handloom accessories design development infrastructure marketing and production. Then national technical textile mission having 1480 crore of rupees for 4 years. Remember this fact 2021 2024 2024 तक के लिए 1480 करोड़ रुपए का फंड इन्फ्यूजन हुआ है फ्रेंड्स. दैट लीड्स टू नेशनल टेक्सटाइल मिशन. कैपेसिटी बिल्डिंग एंड सोशल सिक्योरिटी गोज फॉर समर्थ स्कीम फॉर कैपेसिटी बिल्डिंग एंड टेक्सटाइल सेक्टर स्किल डेवलपमेंट इंटायर वैल्यू चेन टेक्सटाइल एक्सक्लूडिंग spinning, weaving, organized sectors and incubation in the apparel manufacturing SIAM, that is scheme for influence manufacturing in the apparel, scheme for textile industry workers, accommodation scheme, safe, adequate and convenient location accommodation of textile, apparel industry and reduction in the taxes. So scheme for promotion and remission of duties and taxes on export products is also added. Now we see that how telecom sector has been gradually developing since 1851. Lord Dalhousie, कौन से ब्रिटिश गवर्नर लॉर्ड डलहौजी के द्वारा पहली लैंडलाइन टेलीकम्युनिकेशन सुविधा भारत में शुरू की गई एंड इट्स मेड ऑपरेशनल एट अ प्लेस नियर कोलकाता. कलकत्ता से पहली टेलीकम्युनिकेशन स्टार्ट की गई थी मित्रों 1851 ईस्वी में. Then 1854 there was इलेक्ट्रॉनिक टेलीग्राफ मेड इट्स अपीयरेंस. 1854 में इलेक्ट्रॉनिक टेलीग्राफ लाया गया एंड 1881 में टेलीफोन सर्विसेज फॉर्मली लॉन्च्ड. 1947 पोस्ट टेलीफोन टेलीग्राफ body was formed in nationalization of all telecommunication companies. 1984 entry of private sector in telecommunication was there. 85 two separate departments for post and telecommunication were created. 1989 telecom commission was set up. 1994 national telecom policy was launched. 1997 telecom regulation authority try established. 1999 new telecom policy was launched. 2004 broadband policy intra-circle merger guidelines established and 2012 national telecom policy come into force. Remember this fact for your prelims and mains point of view. Okay. Now what aims for the growth driver of the telecom sector? टेलीकॉम सेक्टर को बढ़ावा देने के लिए क्या चीजें सामने आ रही हैं दैट आर पार्ट ऑफ द कंसर्न. सो देयर इज अ रोबस्ट डिमांड. जो भी टेलीकॉम की चीजें हैं टेलीकम्युनिकेशन वाया मोबिलाइजिंग देन GPS was there and VWAT was there. So all are rising consistently due to rural subscriber of 60.44%. ग्रामीण आबादी का 60% लोगों का टेलीकॉम को यूज करता है, मोबाइल को यूज करता है और टेलीफोन को यूज करता है. ग्रोइंग यंग पॉपुलेशन एंड हायर रियल इनकम फॉर लाइफस्टाइल, गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया इंट्रोड्यूसेस डिजिटल इंडिया प्रोग्राम एट हेल्थ केयर, रिटेल एक्सेट्रा, कनेक्टिंग थ्रू इंटरनेट. देन पॉलिसी सपोर्ट बाय गवर्नमेंट बाय production link incentive of 12,195 crore rupees and providing under the Department of Telecom. 2020 Union Cabinet approved public data office aggregators, which aggregators, PD aggregators, those aggregators will be provided through various funding modules and Wi-Fi network. PD offices are also provided. Then 2021-2, Department of Telecom has allocated 58,737 crore rupees, that is 44% of the total budget in the capital, which leads to development of telecom module over the broadband connectivity from cities to the village areas. And under union budget, government allocate 14,200 crore rupees for the telecom infrastructure and entails completion of optical fiber cables based network for defense services and rolled out in the northeastern areas, 2.2 lakh panchayat. Okay. So what is the banking scenario under stress? So there was a banking situation in India which were facing stresses. So there was merger of the banks and there was reduction from the base rate to the marginal cost of lending rate, MCLR. Now converting debt into equity is the government moves at the end of moratorium period, and interest rate of State Bank of India goes down by the fund based lending rates at 2+%, 2% की दर से MCLR रखा गया है. Rationalization of adjusted gross receipts is also adjusted gross revenue as a prospectively reduced, which aims for telecom to have not pay any kind of spectrum use charge. वैसे telecom companies जो कि spectrum को नहीं use कर रहे हैं, they don't have to pay any charges. Further reduction in the additional cost, airways acquisition, auction for 30 years, state 20 years, यानी कि 30 सालों तक के लिए auction को बढ़ा दिया गया है. Cumbersome requirement of licenses under 1953 custom notification for wireless equipment has been replaced with the self declaration. 1953 Act को replace किया गया. An auction calendar has been fixed for the spectrum auction of normally held between the spectrum usage charges. Now, what are the ICRA telecommunication module which leads to the cash flow benefit of 46,000 crores of rupee in the telecom sector, and long-term solution provision for telecommunication, bring down levies taxes on telecom, reserve prices for spectrum and brought down the match market sentiment. It also reduces the procedural hassles, procedures में जो भी conflict हो रहे थे उनको भी ये reduce कर रहा है, and reducing the quality services of the consumers, making the 4G more and more perpetual, banking facilities, medical facilities, educational facilities available through it, encouraging more companies to invest in telecom and prevent predatory prices of sectors. Announcement for the telecom services. 5G अब क्या आ रहा है, 5G spectrum allocation start हो गया है. Further, we are having national digital communication policy in order to enhance the policy push for the telecommunication sector, NDCP 2018. It provides universal broadband connectivity to each and every household, to every people and citizens at 1 gigabyte per second connectivity to all the gram panchayat and 10 gigabytes PS by 2022. It ensures connectivity to all covered areas, attracts investment of $100 billion to digital communication sector. कितने का investment है friends? $100 billion US, and train 1 million manpower for building new age skill, secure digital communication infrastructure and services. Remember this fact for your prelims and mains point of view. So, National Broadband Policy and National Digital Connection Policy, what aims? Aims for broadband to all. It aims creation of 4 additional jobs, 4 million jobs, यानी कि 40 करोड़ लोगों को रोजगार. Enhances the 8% growth of GDP from 6%. Also rise in the digital sovereignty. Also rise in India's contribution to global value chain. Now these are the facts to be remembered for the prelims as well as mains answer writing. Next, civil aviation sector. So we will discuss this sector in the next class. Hope that you are getting good information for the classes to read, revise, repeat and memorize all the crucial facts and figures for your prelims as well as mains examination. I believe that this current affair helps a lot. So, thank you and have a nice day. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat.